Hello and welcome to a little bit of a saucy video today because we're going to be talking about when it's right to leave your teaching job. Now, I wrote this script for this video really more as a leaving one teaching job to go to a different teaching job, like leaving your school, going to a different school. But as I was thinking about it, I just wanted to also mention that it could be used as a, hey, maybe I should also leave the profession. So whether you're thinking maybe I should leave the profession, whether you're thinking maybe I should leave my school and find a different one, this is the video for you. We're going to talk about a couple of just red flag things that if you're experiencing this might mean it might be a good time to look for something new. Now, as we go through this, I just want to mention that this is going to be obviously super personal, one, and two, it's going to be very different depending on your situation. So you might have, some things that you agree with that we go through, but you don't think are a big deal, or maybe there are always things. I would say the biggest thing that you want to keep an eye out for is changes. If it used to be one way and now it's a different way in a negative way, and it's not working out for you. So just, take everything with a grain of salt. And there we go. Before we get into this, I do want to say, if you happen to be watching this and you happen to be from my school, I'm not going anywhere. I just got there. We're good. We're good. But to be fully honest, why I wanted to make this video is because I did start a new school this year. So I worked at one school for 6 years. I actually did my student teaching there, worked there for 6 years. And now I'm at a new school this year for year number 7. So I'm not even through 1 year yet. And I was hoping that I would be happier and a little bit less tired and a little bit less stressed at my new school. But I was like, it can't be that much different. It's still teaching. It's still hard. Teaching is hard, and we all know that. And I was like, surely it's not that much different. And friends, I am here to tell you, it has made a world of difference. So much. Not that I was always consistently unhappy at my old school. I definitely started pretty great, but once I got to year 4 and year 5 and year 6, there were a lot of things that just kind of stuck with me. You know how those bad things just kind of stick with you. And by the time I got to year 6, I was just like, I can't do this anymore. And I honestly was thinking of leaving the profession as a whole. But I ended up, I had a whole plan in place. I was like, if this happens, I'm going to take this job. If this happens, I'll take this job. So I was I had a whole situation, and I ended up finding a job rather quickly in my district, was able to just transfer, and it has made a world of difference. I was definitely happy for a season at my first job, but I was I just was not prepared for how different it was going to be at my new school. And just, I want you to know that if you're unhappy, 1, you can change that. 2, you can leave your school. 3, it might make a huge difference. So this is where my heart is. This is where I'm coming from. I want you to have, the best teaching situation, whether that's if I can give you activities to do with your kids, or time management, or productivity, or classroom management tips. Whatever I can do to help you have a better teaching life is what I want to do. And that might mean leaving your school, or leaving your district, or even leaving the profession. And if you are thinking about leaving your school or leaving the profession, let's talk about that for a minute. So if you're like, I want to leave my school, and you feel all sorts of guilt, first of all, been there. I was at my school for 6 years, and my school had a really high turnaround rate, which meant that for a lot of the kids, I was the consistency. There weren't a lot of us who really stuck around through a lot of it. And so having that consistency of, oh, I come to music and Miss Davis is there, really does help. And so that really stressed me out of not having that consistency for the kids. I was also honestly really concerned that they weren't going to be able to find someone to fill my position, which sounds kind of arrogant as I say it, but there were years that we had subs in a classroom for the whole year. So I was like, they might not even be able to find someone. What are we going to do? If you're feeling those kind of things, here's what I want to tell you. That's not your job. And this is what I told myself. I was like, Becca, it's not your job. You don't have to line someone else up to replace you. You don't have to be the consistent one. You did it for 6 years. That's a long time. You can move on. It's okay. So if you're feeling all those kind of guilty things, stick to your job, don't stress, and know that you can change your mind. You can change your mind, you can change your situation, you can find a new job. It's okay. And if you're thinking about leaving the profession, obviously I'm not in that position, I would say really evaluate whether you want to leave the profession or just make a change, because you might find, like I had a friend who taught in the classroom and then moved to teaching specials, and she was so much happier. So maybe you just need to change jobs, or maybe you need to change schools or districts or something like that. Like that might be the difference, because a year ago I was seriously considering just being done and just doing, you know, this kind of stuff all the time. And I am so happy that I did stick around and I did try again somewhere else, because it's really helped me to find a lot more joy. And it's just, I still have problems, like life is still difficult, but just overall, like I just feel so much more joy and so much more contentment and so much less stress and exhaustion than I used to. But if you do decide you want to leave the profession, that's okay. Teaching is one of those jobs that gets really wrapped up in our identities. It's a passion-filled job. It's a mission-filled job, kind of like, you know, a pastor or a doctor, like those things that you do because you feel called to it. And so it can feel like your whole identity, and it can be really hard to leave. But I just want to tell you, if you're in that position, you are more than just a teacher. You have other sides to yourself, and it's okay to leave teaching. You can also teach in other ways. So like I teach on Sundays at church. I teach the kids about Jesus every Sunday. Well, not every Sunday. I do have one other person helping me. But I write all the lessons, like I do all those things. And so that's a way that I'm teaching that's not necessarily in the classroom. There's summer camps, there's tutoring, there's your own children you can teach. Like there's a lot of ways you can teach. You can teach online. There's a lot of ways you can teach that are not in the traditional classroom. So just because you leave the classroom doesn't mean you have to leave your identity and leave teaching. And you can always come back. There are so many teaching jobs. We have 55 schools in my county, and that's not even including all the surrounding counties. Like there's so many schools. So yes, you may not, you know, immediately be able to find a job, but you can probably find a job. So if you are thinking about leaving, like it doesn't have to be forever. You could take a break, take a couple years, and then you might want to go back later, and that's fine. You can do that. You have that option. So don't be so stressed about like end all be all. You can come back one day if you want to, and maybe you don't, and maybe you do, I don't know. But having that option, I think, is probably really helpful just mentally. Now, as we go through my notes and my little like video that I've got here, I just want to say some of these things are things that I personally experienced, but not all of them. A lot of them are ones that I've gotten from friends, that I've talked to from other teachers, or that I have noticed. And I want to say that it's everywhere. You know, I see teachers at schools that everyone thinks are really great schools that are over and done with it, and I see teachers at ones that people think aren't great schools that are over and done with it. Like it's everywhere. And so it's not necessarily a certain type of school or a certain type of place or any of that kind of thing, but just a variety. And they're not all mine. I hope you have something fun to drink, because this is, we gonna chat. So number one sign that you probably should leave your school is if you wouldn't recommend it to somebody else. If you can't in good conscience recommend your school to somebody else to work there, you probably shouldn't be there either. Because if it's not good enough for somebody else, why is it good enough for you? Right? Now, there are some personality matches, of course, like some people are happy at certain schools and some people are happy at different schools. So it could be just the person and the school and that kind of stuff. But if you in good conscience can't really recommend it to anybody, you shouldn't be working there. If it's toxic enough that you're not here for it and you don't think other people should work there, you shouldn't either. At my new school, I have a couple of positions that are open this year, but there are some positions that are coming open, and I have been texting people, calling people, emailing people, like actively recruiting people for my new school, because I know how wonderful it is and I want them to be able to experience that, and I want them to come. So if you don't feel that way, you probably shouldn't be working there either. The second one is if every single day just feels really, 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 really hard and exhausting. Now, I'm not just saying teacher hard. Like, teaching is exhausting everywhere. Certain seasons are more exhausting. For example, I'm a music teacher. When it's concert season, life is really hard and life is really exhausting. I have 3 field trips coming up that are all like in a week from each other. That's gonna be really hard and exhausting, but that's not every single day of the year. If every single day of the year starts feeling really tiring and really exhausting, that's a sign that you personally should not be at that school anymore. And it might be different things, you know, sometimes it's the not feeling appreciated, sometimes it's just like things that kind of build up or whatever it is, but that's a big sign. And especially I would say if that is a change, like it used to feel okay and now it's feeling really horrible, that's a good sign that you should probably leave. That was one of my biggest things last year. Again, nothing against my old school, but it just got to the point where I had, you know, there were certain things that frustrate me, as there always are, and those certain things kept happening over and over and over and over and over again. And it just got so hard to convince myself to get up and convince myself to go to school. My biggest thing was I had the hardest time if everything else wasn't perfect. I had to, like, if I got up on time and I did my workout and I read my Bible and like I did all these things, then I might be okay. If I leave on time and I listen to worship music on full blast the whole way to school, I might be okay. But if I woke up late, if I was in a bad mood, if the dogs were annoying me, like if anything happened, it just felt like I could not handle anything else. And so that was a big sign that I was burnt out at that particular school, which again can happen to anybody at any school. But if every single day is just really, 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 really difficult and like any little thing kind of sets you off, that was another thing. Specifically, things that happened that would set me off. Like this would happen and I was like, I can't even function, is kind of how I felt. If you're feeling that way, you need to find a new school, because a lot of times it's certain problems maybe that you're having that maybe don't exist other places. Number 3, this is not a personal one of mine, but I heard someone else say this and I was like, oh yeah, that's a good one. If you dream of terrible things happening to the school, you probably should not be working there. So ironically, the one I heard, somebody was like, someone said, I used to dream that, you know, something bad would happen at the school, like, you know, the power would be out or something worse, and then I wouldn't have to deal with it that day. You know, we wouldn't have to have school that day. First of all, I will say, as someone who went through the school catching on fire, they don't let you not go to school, they just send you somewhere else. So just FYI, if something bad happens to your school, they will find a way. It doesn't solve your problem. But if you're dreaming of terrible things, whether that's to the school or to other things, you know, if you're dreaming of your car breaking down on the way to school, you probably should not be working there, and you probably need to find a new school. I have had that one. My car used to be really unreliable. I'd be like, maybe it'll just break down and I won't have to go to school today. Yeah, those are not good thoughts, friends. Don't do it. The next one, if all of your coworkers are super negative. There are negative people in every school, but if the overwhelming feeling is negative, you should not be there. I will say this is not one I experienced much at my old school. We did, for the most part, as a whole, have really good attitudes and worked really well as a team. So we didn't have that. But if your coworkers are rude and negative and complaining all the time, and it's like the whole, not just like, you know, 1 or 2 people, you need to get yourself out of there, because listen, negativity spreads. And so if this person's being negative, it's going to spread and it's going to come to you. It might take a while, but it will infect you, because you hear all those bad things and it gets in your head and it gets in your soul and it just sticks around. So if your coworkers are all as a whole super negative, you need to get out of there and you need to find somewhere else to go. Okay? Because we need positivity. You don't need those negative vibes. They can bring you down. And finally, frankly, if you're watching this video and you're all the way to the end, and especially if you're not subscribed to me, that might be a sign that you should leave. Because if you're happy, you're not thinking about it. You know, I have not thought about whether I should leave my school this year because I knew I wasn't going to. If you're good, you won't be thinking about leaving. So if you're watching this video and if you made it to the end, and especially if you're, you know, not like a Becca fan, you know, you're not around all the time, that's a good sign that maybe you're thinking about leaving. If you are thinking about leaving, I want you to know it is totally okay. But as I said at the beginning, I would recommend that maybe you explore the idea of going to a different position or going to a different school and seeing if that solves the problem. It may not solve the problem, and you may not be in a position where that's gonna work out for you, but just remember that like it doesn't have to be all or nothing. It can be just a change of scenery. It can be just a change from negative coworkers to positive coworkers. Like it could be something simple that just needs to happen. So bear in mind. The other thing I want to say is that these are things that I see everywhere, every school. You know, it's something that you can see it in someone's face when they're just done and they're just over it, and it happens everywhere, not just at schools, it happens in other places too. So you're not by yourself, you're not alone, and it's not necessarily like your school is a bad school because it's not a good fit for you. Even if your school maybe was a good fit, but now it's not. Maybe it's just that you've been there so long that it's just time to move on. Sometimes it's just time to move on, and that is okay. So if you're feeling stressed, if you're feeling, you know, any of those kind of things, don't, you know, just see what can I do to improve my situation. And maybe it doesn't. I know someone who was in the classroom moved to like a pull-out kind of position and still was like, yeah, no, I can't do this anymore. And that's okay. That's fine. It's okay. So, you know, do what's best for you and don't worry about what all the other people think. Okay? Okay. And if you are a music teacher and you are sticking around the profession, do hit the link, the button below to subscribe to this channel. And if you're not a music teacher, you probably won't be interested in anything we talk about here except for this video. So nice seeing you. All right, thanks. Let me know what I missed down below in the comments. What would be your signs? What are your red flags? Let me know. Okay, bye.